Let's set the record straight right now. People are taught from childhood that kindness will heal every wound, that niceness will smooth over every rough edge of life. And for most encounters, with healthy souls who live by shared values, that's true. But the moment you step into the shadowy orbit of a narcissist, those same virtues turn into weapons pointed back at you. Kindness, to the narcissist, doesn't look like generosity. It looks like surrender. Every time you forgive, every time you overlook, every time you offer compassion without boundaries, the narcissist leans back and thinks, good, I've got control now. Relationships for the narcissist aren't partnerships. They're battlefields. Not about intimacy. Always about power. And here's the harsh reality. The narcissist thrives on what you give so freely. That grand persona they wear like armor, it's hollow inside, desperate for constant validation to keep from crumbling. Your patience, your empathy, your niceness, that's the richest fuel they know. The more you offer, the more they devour. What makes it dangerous is that your instincts, the very instincts that make you human, seeing the good, soothing conflict, offering grace, become traps. The narcissist doesn't see a bridge when you extend one. They see a map of your weak points, and they file them away for later use. You think you're building peace. They're plotting leverage. That's why so many people lost in the web of a narcissistic relationship feel torn in half. You whisper to yourself, if I just love harder, forgive longer, wait a little more, they'll change. But what you don't see is that your kindness is being recorded as evidence of weakness. It reassures the narcissist that you'll stay. It gives them permission to keep going. Behavioral psychology has a phrase for this: intermittent reinforcement. It's the random dose of reward that makes the pattern unbreakable. And the narcissist is a master gambler. Just enough smiles, just enough false hope, just enough crumbs of affection to keep you hooked. Meanwhile, your steady stream of goodness props up their dysfunction. They won't stop. Why should they? The system works perfectly in their favor. Some people push back and say, but isn't it cruel not to be kind? Don't we all deserve grace? Yes, grace matters. But grace without truth isn't grace, it's self-betrayal. To keep pouring compassion into someone who exploits it isn't noble. It's complicity. If your goodness leaves you empty, bruised, and confused, then it isn't goodness anymore. It's naivety. This leads to a sobering question. When does compassion cross over into cowardice? At what point does avoiding conflict become avoiding responsibility to yourself? That's the crossroads every person entangled with a narcissist eventually faces. Niceness, in that arena, is no longer peace. It's moral avoidance. And the narcissist senses it. They can smell fear like a shark smells blood. The moment you shrink back out of fear of being disliked, fear of being alone, fear of being the villain in their script, they know. They'll keep pressing, because they've already discovered your breaking point. Listen closely. You don't owe perpetual kindness to someone who makes cruelty a lifestyle. Respect must run both ways, or it isn't respect at all. Empathy has to be mutual, or it turns into manipulation. Otherwise, what you're in isn't a relationship. It's theater. They perform domination, and you play the role of approval. You keep waiting for the script to change, but it never will. Because the narcissist never signed up for truth. Only control. You weren't born to be someone's fuel tank, drained until there's nothing left. You weren't created to be discarded once you're used up. You were made with dignity, with worth, with the right to stand tall in your own values. That begins the moment you realize some people will always twist your kindness into opportunity. So stop confusing niceness with strength. Draw the line. Speak the truth. Be willing to walk away. True strength doesn't come from how long you can endure chaos. True strength comes when you choose yourself, when you choose freedom, when you choose to step out of the role they wrote for you. That's not cruelty. That's courage. That's moral clarity. And here's where we dive deeper. Empathy. Society praises it, and rightly so. It's the lifeblood of human connection, the heartbeat of community. Without it, we would unravel into cruelty and chaos. But empathy without discernment, that's where the danger lives. Because the narcissist sees your empathy not as a sacred bond, but as a tool to use. Your desire to understand, to repair, to ease pain, it becomes the string they pull. And they pull it well. The narcissist studies you, not with reflection, but with instinct. They clock your guilt. They hear your hesitation. They memorize the moments you say, "I just want peace," or "maybe I was too harsh." With every hesitation, they're sketching a playbook, one designed for you and you alone. That's the sting, isn't it? You're not being taken advantage of because you're fragile. It's the opposite. You're being targeted because you care deeply, because you carry a heart that feels, because your instincts are tuned to notice pain and try to heal it. You step in thinking, if I can just show the narcissist love, if I can just make them feel safe, they'll stop lashing out. But that's the snare. Because the narcissist isn't hunting for healing. The narcissist is hunting for control. And your empathy is the most perfect net they'll ever find. So the stories begin. Half-truths are spun, grievances rehearsed, tales of being misunderstood poured out like poison honey. Not because the narcissist is truly the victim, but because they know the sound of suffering will pull at your compassion. And the moment your compassion is stirred, the stage belongs to them. You stop judging their behavior. You start excusing it. You start defending what is, in truth, manipulation dressed as vulnerability. This is why survivors often wake up feeling robbed of their own sanity. You wonder if you're cruel for drawing a line. You wonder if you're selfish for asking not to be hurt. That confusion isn't random. It's engineered. The narcissist has bent your very humanity into a leash. You pour out every drop of yourself, and then you're told it still isn't enough. Here's the sobering truth. When empathy outpaces discernment, you become a participant in your own exploitation. That doesn't mean you're to blame. It means you've been tricked into believing that endless understanding is holy. It isn't. You aren't required to understand someone who weaponizes your goodness. You don't owe endless patience to someone who treats it as permission to violate your boundaries. Unbound empathy is not compassion, it's codependency. It erases your voice, your identity, until you exist only as the fixer of another's chaos. That isn't love. That's self-erasure. And the narcissist flourishes in that soil because the smaller you become, the larger their shadow grows. So what's the way out? Not by freezing your heart, not by turning cold. That's just another prison. The way forward is wise empathy, compassion married to accountability, empathy that doesn't erase you from the equation. The next time guilt or pity pulls you toward the narcissist's orbit, stop and ask, whose needs are being met here? Is this mutual, or am I being played for someone else's control? When empathy grows teeth, when it's discerning, you see the mask for what it is. You realize some people don't want understanding, they want obedience. And you stop trying to fix them. You stop begging them to hear you, because deep down you finally grasp the truth. They already hear you. They just don't care. And when that dawns on you, the power shifts. You reclaim your heart, your discernment, your dignity. You step out of the role they wrote for you. And that, to the narcissist, is more threatening than anger, more dangerous than hate. You become untouchable because you can no longer be controlled. Setting boundaries for mental strength. Let's talk straight about niceness. People confuse it with goodness, but they're not the same. Niceness, especially when it's habitual or rooted in fear, can be one of the most dangerous disguises a person wears in the presence of a narcissist. When you're nice to the narcissist, you're not modeling virtue. You're signaling compliance. You're showing, sometimes without a word, that you'll trade your own values, silence your own intuition, and even surrender your dignity, all to avoid conflict or preserve a fragile illusion of peace. And the narcissist sees it. They smell it. And they exploit it. Because in their world, life is a ladder. those who dominate and those who serve. Power is the game. Control is the prize. If you enter that system with open hands, soft boundaries, and a desperate need to keep things smooth, you don't calm the storm, you prove your place beneath it. You silently confirm they hold the crown. And it rarely begins with a slap of cruelty. It starts small, a guilt trip wrapped in vulnerability, a subtle criticism disguised as concern, a tiny request that grows into demand. And because you're nice, because you'd rather bend than break, you say yes. Again and again. You absorb the gaslighting. You excuse the belittling. You bury your resentment and call it patience. All the while you believe you're keeping the peace, but in truth, you're just feeding the fire. The narcissist's empire grows on your silence, on your self-sacrifice, on your willingness to hold their chaos so they can keep standing tall. And with every time you choose nice over truth, a little more of you disappears. So when you ask, what's wrong with being nice? Here's the answer. Nice people confuse kindness with avoidance. They think that if they smooth things over long enough, the narcissist will change. But narcissists don't respond to smoothness. They respond to structure. They respond, in their twisted way, to consequence. They respect the one who says no and means it. Niceness, unchecked, becomes a mask. A mask to hide fear. A mask to avoid the hard work of confrontation, of truth-telling, of standing in the uncomfortable reality that not everyone wants to be healed. Some want to dominate, and if you keep showing up with softness when the moment demands strength, you're not just enabling dysfunction, you're validating it. What's required here isn't cruelty. It isn't aggression. What's required is clarity. It's the courage to be assertive without apology. Boundaries are not weapons. They are the handwriting of self-respect on the walls of your life. And when you shift from being merely nice to being deeply honest, from being passive to being principled, the narcissist will feel the ground shaking beneath them. Because the structure they once towered over, the system they built on your silence, begins to crumble, and that threatens the very heart of their control. It's in that moment, when the mask cracks, when the rage bursts through, when the manipulations grow louder, that you'll feel the pull to go back. To smooth things over, to keep the false peace. But that urge isn't compassion. It's conditioning. Niceness was never keeping the peace. It was only extending the war. What must rise in its place is a deeper kind of moral responsibility. The willingness to face conflict for the sake of truth. The capacity to endure discomfort for the sake of integrity. That's the thunder the narcissist fears most. Not your anger, but your awakening. Not your shouting, but your refusal to play the part. So the next time you feel the urge to swallow your words, to smile when your soul wants to scream, to explain yourself over and over hoping to finally be understood, stop. Ask yourself, am I choosing peace, or am I choosing control at my own expense? Because the moment you choose to stand firm, not out of rage, but out of reverence for yourself, that's the moment the tide turns. Reclaiming confidence and resilience. One of the most dangerous myths we've inherited is this, that niceness is the same as virtue. That if you keep smiling, keep agreeing, keep avoiding waves, then you're good. But that's not virtue. That's avoidance. Niceness is often a mask, hiding fear, hiding codependency, hiding the deep discomfort of ever standing tall for yourself. Let's be real. People who keep acting nice in the face of cruelty aren't saints. They're scared. Scared of conflict. Scared of rejection. Scared of what might happen if they finally say no. And inside the grip of a narcissist, that fear is the foundation of the entire relationship. Because these are not misunderstandings. They are collisions of two worlds. The narcissist is driven by power and control. You may be driven by harmony and connection. And when those two forces collide, you end up giving while they keep taking. Your niceness, your refusal to confront, your habit of smoothing every jagged edge, becomes the very rope they use to bind you. And it's not happening because you're too good. It's happening because your sense of worth has been tied to someone else's approval. That's what codependency is, outsourcing your value to another's validation. And make no mistake, codependency isn't love. It isn't loyalty. It's self-abandonment dressed up as devotion. You believe you're protecting love when you stay quiet, when you accept blame, when you fix what you never broke. But really, you're slipping away piece by piece, erasing yourself in the name of keeping someone else whole. Narcissists are sharp hunters of such hearts. They know who will shrink, who will carry the load, who will back down first. They don't admire your softness. They don't honor your patience. They exploit it. To them, niceness doesn't say kindness. It says usefulness. And usefulness, to them, is temporary. So hear this clearly. Being agreeable in a moment that demands strength is not moral high ground. It's the echo of an underdeveloped sense of self, often planted in early years, in families where love had to be earned and peace was bought with silence. In that soil, being nice wasn't a choice, it was survival. But what kept you safe back then is chaining you now. That's why so many who endure narcissistic abuse feel torn apart. They believe they were doing everything right. Patient, forgiving, accommodating. But instead of honor, they receive deeper wounds. Why? Because predators respect one thing only, strength. And compulsive niceness never reads as strong. The path out isn't harshness. It's honesty. Honest about the fear that drives the silence. Honest about the cost of peacekeeping. Honest about the years spent managing another's storm while neglecting your own truth. Niceness, when it flows freely from a secure soul, paired with healthy boundaries, becomes grace. But niceness that is automatic, reactive, compulsive, that's fear. That's the strategy of a child who learned that safety came from appeasement. And that strategy, if left unchecked, will steal the very life it was once meant to protect. So the real question isn't, are you nice? The real question is, are you real? Are you showing up with courage, with truth, with the strength to say, I will not abandon myself just to make you comfortable? Because the day you stop hiding fear beneath niceness, the day you stop believing compliance will win you love, is the day you step back into your life, your time, your voice, your dignity. And yes, the narcissist will notice. They'll push harder. They'll accuse. They'll call you selfish, cold, unrecognizable. But that isn't failure, it's evidence. Evidence that the script is breaking. Evidence that you are waking up. Your niceness never shielded you. It only delayed the storm. But the moment you choose courage over comfort, that's the moment healing begins.